I've been in business in South Florida for over 40 years. And I can tell you that I don't know how much time I have spent in my business life and my personal life trying to understand and help people understand how important it is to pay people the right wages. There is a cloud over South Florida that's been here since I got here that still exists today, where if you live in South Florida, you don't have to make as much as everybody else, a comparable job elsewhere in the country. Because you live in the tropics. You don't have any income tax. You know what I mean? There are a lot of people that still cling to this thinking. I mean, I have friends of mine that are major marketing management directors of large law firms. And they admit that they underpay their paralegals, they underpay everybody. And I said, well, somebody's got to go first, or they're all leaving. Like California, they're all leaving. I mean, California has lost out a population. There's been more out immigration than in immigration in California for the last 12 years. And because you can't afford to live in California. You just can't.
I've met people in my 5 years in Idaho, everyone's like, yeah, Idaho. And there are champs all over the place, where people actually with because of quality of life. Colorado is an example, but it's more expensive. I met people who sold their house in San Diego and literally paid cash out of a suitcase at closing the next house, which is twice the size, but in a different state.
Yes. You can go to Houston right now, and you can go to Houston right now. Forget about the hurricane. I mean, you can go to Houston right now. You can buy a single-family house, 3,500 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 3.5 baths, almost quarter acre of land, under 400, 360, 340. Yeah, and I mean a fully dressed out house. I'm not talking
sugar land and stuff,
you know, the
like
top of the line,
Yeah.
because the land, first of all, is so cheap. I mean, you know, historically, housing in Florida, all in housing cost, all in land costs, raw land development, land fees, everything, is about 25% of the selling price. That's a common law, a rule that's been around forever. You'll find the builders, if you go to Portland, you go to Pulte, you go to Bryan, you go, they're in the 23 to 26% range of land to selling price. Texas is 18%. Always has been 18%. I developed thousands of lots in Houston. I can never ever get a builder to pay me a price that got his total cost over 18% of the selling price. And it's still that way today. California, it's 45%. 45%. So just think, if you're starting with on a P&L of a house, and you're starting with a number in land that's 45% of the selling price, you realize what that selling price has to be for you to get a 10, 15% profit at the end? That's why the average house, the median price house in California is $460,000. So these things just exist, and that's why you get a Pulte or you get a Lennar, the big builders, the big public builders. They spread it out by being in 50 markets. When this market's hot, this one's cold. When this one's cold, this one's hot, so forth. The tough problem is the small builder. Remember that 70%, 65% of all housing built in America are built by mom and pop builders who build less than 10 houses a year. The top builders in the country, the top 20, 25 builders in the country, only produce about 30% of all housing in America. We're still a mom and pop business. Pickup trucks, 5-lot, 10-lot deals. I mean, you can drive all around the suburbs of Atlanta. You can go 10, 20 miles in every direction from outside of downtown Atlanta, and you will run across 30, 40, 50 housing projects, no bigger than 10, 15 houses. I mean, that's typical across major parts of our country. Um, so the big guys have the edge because they have the money and the firepower to bank land, and particularly when things are bad. I mean, Lennar banked about 30,000 lots in 2009 and 2010, 2011, because they were just all falling into bankruptcy and foreclosure. And so, and all the big builders did that. Anyway, any other questions? Good, I'm ready for it. Listen to somebody else. Thank you very much.
Why don't we listen to someone who just started a company and have Steve give us some insights about, let's say, reflections, how to survive in this program, and how to start your own company with another partner from this program. And I just got word Dr. Foggy is already at the happy place. So, however long you want to take us.
Short and sweet. So some of you might know me. For you that don't, my name is Steve Wash, and I graduated from this program this year. Little background on me: I was born and raised here in South Florida. So this is my roots. I live down here and never leave unless I was forced to. Why would you? You know, beaches, beautiful women. Why? You know, my undergrad was in finance, and that's how I started my career. And kind of like Tony mentioned, I had no real estate experience whatsoever when I started. You know, the company I worked for after my undergrad kind of got bought out by a competitor, and I was like, you know what, let me put my resume out there. I don't want to be in this limbo depending on what's going to happen with this company. So, you know, put it out there, and I got a call from a developer, Altman Development actually, based out of Boca Raton. And they do, you know, strictly rentals. They used to be a condo developer, but with the market crash, they almost lost their ass, and you know, they converted their condos into rentals, and that's how they, you know, set their foot back on the ground. And they've been developing rentals ever since. So they gave me a good opportunity there. Having the finance background obviously helped get my foot in the door there. But you know, I learned a lot there. It was one of those type of environments where it's sink or swim. They kind of throw you into the fire. You got to go figure it out. And what I'm understanding from the real estate industry, a lot of those companies are that way as well. So, you know, for those, well, let me ask you this: who here actually works in real estate? Out of you guys, who actually works in development? Very few, and that's what I've encountered over the years. You know, there's many different facets of real estate, as Tony mentioned, as Tom mentioned. You know, you got to understand what real estate development is, and that's what this program really gives you. You know, the tools and the general understanding of real estate development. You know, you could always veer off in different directions depending on what your career choice is, but you can, you know, essentially put your place into any facet of it and be you know, be successful in real estate. You know, given that I started with Altman, you know, and I started as a financial analyst there, quickly kind of moved up into the associate role and a manager role, and I was essentially running all their large development projects. I managed over $120 million last year in real estate development. Apartments in Orlando, 400 units up there, and a lot of projects down here in South Florida. You know, having that experience helped me in this program. You know, it helped me kind of connect all the dots. You know, working for a company like Altman, as I mentioned, they're kind of just throw you in the fire. It's not a classroom setting. No one's going to hold your hand and show you how to do things. You kind of have to figure it out on your own. So there's a lot of things I was doing and not understanding why I was doing it. So sitting in the classroom like this really helped me ask the questions, kind of connect all the dots, and be like, I'd have those light bulb moments sometimes in the back of the classroom, like, oh, that's why I did all that stuff. You know, and it made a lot of sense at that point. So, you know, I definitely took it seriously. You know, I think 2.5 years into my career at Altman, I wanted to kind of progress and expand my career. A fellow colleague of mine there actually did the program here at Nova and recommended it to me because I was considering maybe doing an MBA in finance or another type of real estate oriented field, and he mentioned this program. I dug a little deeper into it and got a lot of good recommendations, and I'm very glad I did it. You know, it definitely helped me, like I said, connect all the dots and get a really good grasp of just the overall development process. You know, one thing I can recommend for you guys sitting here, of course, is get to know your classmates. Get to know the network. The networking piece is probably the most critical piece of any career you can think of. You know, I've always heard this growing up. It's not what you know, it's who you know. I knew there was partly, part truth to that, but I didn't know how much of a truth there was to it. It's a huge component of success, and especially, development. As I mentioned, meet your peers, talk to them. There's a lot of professionals that come here, such as Tony, presenting, pay attention. These guys are more than willing to help. For example, we had a mentorship program, which I think you guys are still doing, correct? Yeah. Terry Stiles, I was fortunate to have Terry Stiles as my mentor. God rest his soul, of course, but he really put out a helping hand. Every time I called him, he was available. He made himself available. He was more than happy to help and talk to me. And since you put me in my place when I was overly excited or overly ambitious, and he really kind of guided me in the right track. And I can say if it wasn't for Terry, he had a lot to do with where I'm at today. Also, as I mentioned, learning, get to meet your peers. There was a gentleman who I actually met here in the program. His name is Noah Leon. It's funny that Tom gives me crap about this all the time, but I was a judge at one of the same presentation you guys did today, a judge last year for Noah's group, and I actually graded them horribly. And it's funny that he's my business partner now, but I gave him like a bad grade on his presentation.
I hope he's doing better PowerPoints.
He's getting slowly better, but I met him here at the program, just talking to him, getting to know who he was, and we had different skill sets. He was more from the brokerage, the realtor side. He did a bunch of home flips and renovations. He was very successful at it. So we met, we talked, and we've always thought it'd be interesting kind of getting into business together. And talk came into reality. We went out and talked to people. We had a good business strategy. We understood where the market was. We always paid attention in class, always looked at the news articles and understood where things are going in the economy. I brought up the question to Tony earlier about the gap of the haves and the have-nots. That's something I always understood and realized growing up. I came from a working class family. My parents are both immigrants. They came to this country to own a home and have the American dream. And I watched them struggle throughout my life. And that's when I get older, I don't want to, I guess, put my children the same way, put my children through the same things that I went through when I was growing up. So, this problem with affordability is just getting bigger and bigger. And that's something that I've seen. I work my ass off, and I'm still struggling to, save a down payment to buy a home. That's my ultimate goal. And realizing that, Noah and I talked about it. We talked about it throughout the program, especially with San Miguel, who I think is still teaching here. He makes you present a lot of articles. He requires you to read the Wall Street Journal, which is very beneficial. And I recommend everybody do that. Take this program very seriously. I know a lot of it is very tedious and agonizing, but it's all to the best of your benefit. Understanding where we were in the market, we talked about the affordability issues a lot. Noah and I spoke about it, and we said this is going to be our strategy. We want to focus on the working class, and that's what we did. We went out, we created our business plan, and we went out and raised the capital. And it gave us an opportunity to kind of leave my job. I quit Altman and focus solely on development. So our core strategy is really workforce housing development. Trying to focus on the working class, because right now it's really hard for a working professional, especially entry-level family, or to afford a home. People want home ownership. Everybody has this misconception that millennials just want to rent. Yeah, there's part truth to that. It is. It's a lot easier to kind of go into a downtown core, rent, and have all the luxurious amenities. But millennials also want to own, but they can't. Because why can't they? Because they can't afford down payments. And why is that? Because all these new homes that are being built are just, the luxury market is just saturated. Everything's $400,000 plus if you guys, look around. Any home that hits the market that are $300,000 and under, here in Broward County, Miami-Dade, they're flat off the shelves. 13-floor homes is one of our major competitors, that I would say. We're always touring their properties, seeing what kind of product they provide, but they can't build them fast enough. And it's because of this affordability crisis. So people do want to buy homes, and that's our core focus. So that's what we've been focusing on. We have a couple projects under development right now. One we just signed a contract. There's one in the pipeline. We're going back and forth on some terms. So we recently established this company about 3 months ago now. So we've been hitting the ground running ever since. Over the past year and a half, I would say, him and I have been coordinating, trying to structure the house, get our operating agreements in place, just make sure that we have a strong foundation to start working and just hit the ground running. That's exactly what we did. So, long story short, I was in your shoes before. I came from nothing, basically. I worked my ass off to get to where I am. I took this program very seriously. I met somebody here at the program, took all the advice and guidance I could, and here I am today. So, as I said, that's the best advice I can give you guys.
When you talk about networking, It's a great point, I'm sorry I didn't bring it up. You have to network. I mean, you have to be connected to real estate organizations, you must stay engaged, depending on what part of real estate you're in, whether it's industrial or office, or you got the ULI, you got NAIOP in particular, are the best. I have been extremely active in the ULI for, I think I said, for 30 years. I can't think of one important thing that happened to me in my life in real estate that didn't come through something that happened in the ULI. A connection, a friend, everything. It's an organization, like all organizations, if you give, you get back. If you just go there to wait for something to fall in your lap, it's never gonna happen. So you get engaged, right? And it's critical. It really is. As big as our industry is, it's very small. Right? I mean, eventually you find out everybody knows everybody.
It's very true.
You know, I mean, you mentioned Terry Style, the personal friend of mine. I mean, you know, if you know who Terry is.
Yeah. I was at the NAIOP conference in Chicago this past week, and they had a big thing. There's a Terry
Yeah.
Styles
Yeah,
tribute
he
for
passed
being one of the
away.
chairpersons
Yeah.
of NAIOP years ago.
It was sad.
Yeah.
But Terry's a good guy, and he developed downtown Fort Lauderdale almost single-handedly. But I think it's a great point you're making. Really.
And it is true. I mean, I've sat at lunches with Terry and just sitting there talking to him about certain things. Like, you know what, call this guy. And one of the guys he told me to call was Harry Posen, for example. And now him and I have a great relationship. We go out to lunch, we have drinks. You know, like he likes his cigars, so we'll sit here and just get smoke blowing in my face. But it's cool. You know, he's a good guy. So you know, it's those type of relationships you guys have to build. And you know, everybody doesn't know anybody. It's a very small niche industry. If you know, you also have to keep a clean face, is what I'm realizing too. You make a bad move and you burn a bridge, everybody knows it. So you got to make sure you guys, you know, do the things the right way. And you know, that's another piece of advice as well.
But if you need help, they'll help you.
Of course, as I mentioned, you made that phone call right to me. Hey, call this guy, call this guy. Same thing with Harry. Anytime I need anything, hey, call this guy, call this guy. He even gives me a secret and says, hey, do not compete with me, man, when you get bigger. He tells me that all the time. So, you know, but it's just that type of love that everybody has for each other. And like for Terry, for example, you know, I knew he touched a lot of people. You know, everybody knows Terry. He built Fort Lauderdale basically single-handedly. But when I went to his memorial, I had no idea how many people that was. I mean, that Fort Mark Center was packed.
2,000 people showed up.
And it just goes to show, you know, what kind of impact you can do, not just as, you know, from a development standpoint, but as a person. You know, and that's Terry. You know, he's always giving back, and hopefully one day I can give back as well, just like Tony's doing in the classroom. I'm here today presenting for judging and giving you guys a little spiel. So, you know,
Terry and I spent more, well, Terry then got very involved in this program, almost about the same time I got involved. And he was chairman of the advisory board, and one day he said to me, look, I can't do this. You got to do it. And he said, you know, I'll stay on the board, but you're better, you got the time to be chairman. So we switched roles. We would get together for lunch, and we would spend 15 minutes talking business or something, and we'd spend the next 45 minutes talking about this program and how we can help you guys. I mean, you find that almost everybody like me that's associated with this program really feels a deep level of engagement and really, really want to help you.
And to give you an understanding how important the advisory board is to the program and us as faculty, my first official appointment while I was interviewing, I was here for 4 days total interviewing. The first official agenda item was 7:30 a.m. meet the advisory board as a job candidate. And breakfast and tea, and then 2 hours of, well, 90 minutes of board meeting. So
And
it's
we
give
have,
and take.
and we have 3 or 4 at any one time alumni from the program on our board. It's not just all, you know, we old guys and old gals and developers and everything. We look to the young people and we help them form an alumni society. And do you participate in that, in Nova's alumni?
yes.
Yeah. That's another way of networking, by the way. I mean, you'll have friends in the real estate industry for life, right in this room. Just stay connected. Stay connected. I mean, I don't think, you know, I mean, an extreme example of this is Harvard's MBA program. I mean, a friend of mine once told me on Wall Street, he says, if you are a Harvard MBA graduate, you will never, ever be without a job. That's as strong as it gets.
Yeah, pay $200,000 a year, I hope so.
Yeah.
Speaking
But it pays.
networking.
Look at the rate of return.
What about here?
Yeah.
Do you recommend it here? Do you
Right.
recommend like the 40, 50,000 that's gonna cost people here? Do you recommend that the investment will return for the student?
I mean, I'll tell you, I spent the money.
Does it guarantee? No.
It's a good investment, I think.
Yes, as long as, you know, you bust your, you know, you, and you work hard, and there's no easy way to make a lot of money. Most times you lose money, unfortunately. It's a high risk, high reward business. And you are burdened with, if you're borrowing the money, you're burdened with that debt, or if you're not borrowing, you're $40,000 poorer.
Yes.
But it's a life, only you can, you know, answer that question in another 30, 40 years.
Really, you get what you put in. That's the way it is.
I mean, when you signed up, no one guaranteed you anything there, right?
No, I
Yeah.
I didn't ask for a guarantee, I said.
No, I didn't
It's a
mean to
good
be
investment, like,
Yeah.
for you said you did your plan, you got your MSR REE, but now, are you working for a company, you created your own, or?
No, we just branched out into our own business.
Oh.
You know, I left Altman,
Yeah,
I just partnered up with alumni.
He spun out and, so,
Doing his own thing.
No, I wasn't expecting that.
Yes.
I wanted to expand.
sorry
on
for my
career.
back. There's nothing wrong with working for somebody else. Most people are destined to work for somebody else. The amount of people who don't work, but only work for themselves, is a small minority. So the thing then is to find a position and an engagement that gives you an environment that satisfies your needs. And some people need collectivity of a group. I mean, some of my best friends love managing with other managers. You know, I mean, they feel comfortable. They don't want to be alone. Other people don't, being with a group is like a hindrance. You know, they want to go out and they want to conquer the world. They want to do it all themselves, and it's fun. But measure yourself. You know who you are. You know, I mean, just because somebody tells a great war story of a successful deal they did, that's not where the life begins and ends. Because I always say, all right, what are you going to do for me tomorrow? I mean, because that deal's over, you were successful. I mean, when I ran a big equity fund back around 10 years ago with a partner in California, we had a $400 million equity fund that we were help placing for some big investors in New York. And you know, every deal that we looked at, you know, took guts to do the deal. I would say that on average, we turned down 9 of every 10 deals. When I mean turned down, I mean we didn't even bother looking at page 2. I mean, it isn't that we did the 10th deal, but we went through, say, a due diligence process. I mean, it takes a lot of work, right? I mean, due diligence takes a lot of work. You know, you can't get all the answers, but you sure want to get as many as you can because that lowers your risk. And so you have the due diligence process, you have the setup process, you have the entitlement process, then you have the building construction process, then you have the marketing process. And you know who gets the last check in the bank account of that project? You. Everybody else gets paid first. Now, you may get a fee, a construction fee or something from your partners, but the home run is at the end of the deal. And that's the business one, that's called the promote.
I should have became a lawyer.
Huh?
I should have became a lawyer.
You're a
I
lawyer?
got paid first.
Well, there's a dual degree program at the law school. Just say, you can do both.
You gotta do the same thing every day for 60 hours a week for the rest of your life. Talk to lawyers.
When he says 60 hours, he's not kidding. 60 hours a week.
I would take that moment and say thank you guys, thank you Stephen, thank you Tony, thank you Alex. To be as judges, to be as guest speakers, and as you all know, now we are going to have the moment of some social happiness on campus here on that local little restaurant / bar. Tony, you want to join us for a pint?
Yeah, where is it over?
Just walking distance, just down the street.
The big building with the.
Big building, yeah.
Yeah. with the-
I would say let's wrap this up here. Thank you very much for an absolutely fantastic 8 weeks
Thank you.
in both classes, and I see your work soon. Which one? For this class? You didn't write this class.
Well, this week, that's our homework.
I said it.
We know that we have a 3.0 now.
I said it. I said it.
What do you think I gotta do tomorrow?
Let's think about it 6 p.m.
It's time to question. Professor Worser,
Yeah.
each of us has to upload the report for the class.